You see every snap. Is there more circumstance that we might not know to Andy Dalton's woeful playoff performance compared to how good he's been when during the regular season? Is there a circumstance that explains it?
I think Andy Dalton is an unusual case. I'm a firm believer in the axiom the quarterback gets too much credit when it goes well and too much blame when it goes poorly. Andy gets all the blame when it goes poorly and no credit when it goes well. It's amazing, man. He's become quite the lightning rod, and I think it's because of his inconsistent play. He'll have 4 games in a row, and he has, where he's been AFC Offensive Player of the Month. Then he'll have a 2-game stretch where it's like, has he ever played quarterback before? And unfortunately, the playoffs, Andy hasn't been at his best, and neither has anybody else. And that's the thing. A.J. Green hasn't shown up. Nobody has shown up in those playoff games. It's been mind-boggling to see how great players have made plays all season long, go into a cocoon for the playoffs. Marvin Lewis's playoff tenure as a head coach is 0-6, and it can be explained in one stat, in my opinion, minus 12. 14 giveaways, 2 takeaways in the playoffs. I mean, you give the ball away like that and make mistakes like that and then can't take it away on the other side of the ball, it's coffin nails, man. You're dead meat, and they have been.
Yeah, and they've lost some home playoff games, which is even more maddening. The Jets beat them with Rex early on. I remember Carson Palmer was when Carson was still there with Cincinnati. Coles had a fumble. They lost to San Diego with Cincinnati. I mean, that simply can't happen. But back to Dalton, is it more of a mental thing or a physical thing? Listen, we know he doesn't have a rocket. His arm is maybe a little better than average. But is it upstairs or is the actual physical tools with Dalton? What do you think?
I mean, I think that Andy is not an elite quarterback. He's kind of middle of the pack. There's probably 16 teams that love him, and 16 teams would say, I'm good. So I don't know where everybody thinks that, he's going to be Tom Brady. He's not. I don't think he's that type of quarterback. But, they can win with him, and he's proven that. He's got 40 regular season wins. But I do think now that he's into in 4 years, he's got 40 regular season wins. But now into his 5th year, there's going to be times during the season where he carries the team instead of the team carrying him. I mean, there is a lot of talent around him. And last year, though, they lost a lot of it. I mean, they were down the playoff game in Indianapolis last year. They were without A.J. Green, Marvin Jones, number 1, number 2 receiver. Tyler Eifert, Jermaine Gresham, number 1, number 2 tight end. I mean, they had a JV team out there offensively. Their weapons weren't even around. So that one was a tough one. That was going into a sword fight with a knife, and it turned out that way.
Dave, we talked about Marvin Lewis and his tenure as head coach, and he's done some good things, and he's gotten to the playoffs of the last 4 years. Is it a foregone conclusion that he's just going to be here forever? It seems like there's never an accountability for some of the failures, even though he's had a lot of successes.
Yeah, that's the interesting dynamic. Mike Brown is he's an 80-year-old old school owner that believes in continuity and consistency. And in the AFC North, Pittsburgh's had 3 head coaches since the Vietnam War. Since 1969, they've had 3 head coaches. Wow. Noel Cowher and now Tomlin. And Baltimore is very, very stable organizationally that way. And the only one that's not, the only one that keeps rebooting, getting rid of GMs and head coaches and quarterbacks is Cleveland. They're the ones that have struggled. So in Mike Brown's mind, continuity and consistency, are very, very important. And honestly, decade of the 90s here, man, it was a lost decade. It was ugly. It was awful.
Terrible.
Marvin came in and took a 2-14 team to 8-8. So that's a tough thing to do. And then 4 playoff seasons in a row, 5 out of the last 6. There's literally only 5 teams, a handful of teams that can make that claim. Difference with the other teams is they've won Super Bowls and advanced in the playoffs, and the Bengals haven't. But Mike Brown looks at it like he's done a hell of a job. I mean, he took a team, turned it around, and then has kept it at a high level for a sustained period of time. There's no seat at the top of the ladder of success, And he feels like he's done a pretty good job. But it's getting frustrating for the fans to be one and done every year when they do make the playoffs.
Well, given all of that, what's the hump buster then for Marvin Lewis? How does he get over it?
Get a quarterback.
And just don't turn the football over, and then take it away a couple of times defensively.